Howdy, everybody. My name is Dacus Giesland. I'm the Deputy Director of the Coastal Fisheries Division here at the Texas Parks and Wildlife. Thanks for watching our virtual public hearing regarding spotted sea trout proposed regulation changes. The purpose of this virtual hearing is to discuss the January 2024 spotted sea trout regulation proposal going before the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission and answer any questions relevant to germane to the proposal, most importantly, and more importantly, to guide you all into the online public comment portal to provide your position on the proposal if you wish to do so. We'll first provide an overview of the recent regulation changes since the winter freeze, as you can see in this timeline. And then we'll hop into some population trend review and the results from recent survey efforts and our October 2023 scoping meetings before discussing the spotted sea trout regulation proposal. Here we have that timeline showing the history of recent spotted sea trout regulations after Winter Storm Uri there in February 2021. You all will remember that significant freeze event coastwide where we lost over 160,000 spotted sea trout, predominantly in the lower Laguna Madre system. But we also recognize those fish kills extended well up into other bay systems. And we do recognize that 160,000 number is an underestimate. And those other bay systems also experienced notable mortality. Following that freeze event, the department took immediate action in the form of emergency regulations. And then in April of 2021, those regulations were specific to the Laguna Madre system. And those were put in place with a reduced slot of a 17 to 23 inch and a 3-fish bag. Then in March of 2022, we implemented some temporary regulations with that same 17 to 23 inch slot and a 3-fish bag, but we expanded that regulation up and through Matagorda Bay, all the way south through the lower Laguna Madre. The only bay systems that were left out of that temporary regulation were Galveston and Sabine Lake. The temporary regulations sunset in August of 2023, and then after those temporary regulations expired, we returned to the 15 to 25 inch slot and the 5-fish bag coastwide, which is where we are today. And just this last fall, Parks and Wildlife conducted scoping and survey efforts, which were presented to the Parks and Wildlife Commission this past November. So here you'll see a familiar slide that shows our population trends coastwide. This graph depicts the coastwide mean or the average spring gillnet catch rates from 1982 to 2023. That horizontal dashed white line running across the middle of the page represents the 10-year average, or the average catch rate from 2013 to 2023. That's more contemporary and more reflective of our current regulatory structure. The y-axis is that catch rate, is the number of fish caught per hour, and the x-axis is the time series in years. And although there is a gap in the data for 2020 due to COVID affecting our ability to sample, the coastwide average catch rate has been less than the 10-year average since that February 2021 freeze event, with the 2022 and 2023 coastwide catch rates well below the 10-year average. And while we're seeing some promising trends in several bay systems in terms of both adult abundance and recruitment of young of the year fish, the abundance of subadults and adults in general is lower coastwide compared to those pre-freeze conditions. And as you can see, some of those have been the lowest we've seen since 2009. As early as spring of 2023, we began to hear from concerned anglers about the upcoming sunset of the temporary regulations. And as we reverted back to the 5-fish bag and the larger slot, we felt it was a good time to reach out to you all, our anglers, and gather your thoughts, your opinions, and ideas about how we manage our trout fishery. In order to do that, we did contract with Texas A&M University to conduct an electronic survey through email. This survey was sent to 10,000 license holders, in addition to a census of 1,500 all-water fishing guide license holders. That's our guide community. This was done through email questionnaire to be more broadly representative of the recreational angling population, and especially those who may not have attended any of our October scoping meetings. The 10,000 non-guide anglers were randomly sampled from counties most likely to target spotted sea trout. And options for the sampling survey regarding spotted sea trout included various slot limits. For example, the 15 to 20 inch slot, a 15 to 25 inch slot, or a 17 to 23 inch slot, and bag limits of 3 or 5 fish. Results of the survey showed responses from both recreational and guides were similar. As you can see on the table over to the right, the most supported option for both recreational anglers and the guides was for a 15 to 20 inch slot and a 3 fish bag, with 1 fish over the maximum size retained. Additionally, recreational anglers and guides both most strongly oppose the 17 to 23 inch slot and the 5 fish bag, with 1 fish over the maximum size. Guides were more strongly opposed to the 17 to 23 inch slot than recreational anglers. As you can see, that higher percentage of the least supported option. Results from the scoping and survey efforts suggest anglers are in favor of a smaller slot size and a reduced daily bag limit. Notably, the slot size favored is different than the post-freeze regulation restricted slot size of that 17 to 23 inch. In addition to the survey I just discussed, we also held scoping meetings in October of this fall for anglers to provide input on the current state of the spotted sea trout fishery. We held 6 meetings along the coast in Port Arthur, Rockport, Port Lavaca, Corpus Christi, Texas City, and down on the lower coast in Port Isabel. Public comments received at the meetings and through email showed that 96% of respondents were in favor of a more restrictive slot size and bag limit. Respondents who specified a specific slot limit had 39% in favor of a 17 to 23 inch slot, and those who specified a daily bag limit were in favor of a 3 fish bag. Angler trends, as indicated on this slide, and trip satisfaction is useful for gauging how anglers feel about their fishing experience. Of the anglers that land trout, most land only 1. The graphs on the right here show angler satisfaction for both private and guided anglers, with a 5 fish bag on top and a 3 fish bag, those regulations put in place immediately after the freeze, illustrated on bottom. The rating scale goes from 1 to 10. You see that on the y-axis, and the number of fish landed per angler on the x-axis. Really, the take home here is angler satisfaction is similar when the bag limit is approached or reached, regardless of whether the bag limit is 3 fish or 5 fish. So that leads us to anticipate that the proposed regulations will impact most anglers, those who catch only 1 fish, or dramatically change angler satisfaction. We presented these results from the public scoping efforts and an angler survey conducted by Texas A&M University, along with our biological and our creel data to the Parks and Wildlife Commission in November. The commission moved forward with a proposal for the January 2024 commission meeting, which specifies a coast-wide 15 to 20 inch slot, a 3 fish bag, and 1 fish over 25 inches legally retained per day as part of the daily bag. Unlike the October 2023 scoping meetings, we will be presenting information and taking comments specific to the proposal, which will go to vote at the January commission meeting and could be implemented as soon as March of 2024. Our statistical modeling that was conducted to determine different slot sizes and bag limits impact on the spawning stock biomass. Spawning stock biomass is a metric we like to use, and it's simply the combined weight of all sexually mature female sea trout. By increasing the spawning stock biomass, or the number of sexually mature female trout, we leave more fish in the water to spawn, thereby increasing recruitment to the fishery. As we discussed in the October scoping meetings, a decreased slot limit in combination with a lower daily bag limit has the greatest benefit to increasing that spawning stock biomass. Our modeling predicts that coupling a 15 to 20 inch slot with a 3-fish bag has the potential to increase spawning stock biomass by 27% over 7 years, or roughly about the generation time frame of a spotted sea trout. This proposal, in conjunction with the 1 over 25 inches allowance, provides us the opportunity to really bolster that spawning stock biomass and achieve a goal of a trophy trout fishery within Texas. After discussing information regarding previous regulations, population trends, survey and scoping results, as well as angler satisfaction, we want to again highlight the specifics of the proposal for adoption coming up at the January Commission meeting. The proposed regulation includes a slot limit of 15 to 20 inches, a 3-fish bag limit, and the ability to keep one oversized trout over 25 inches daily. This concludes the presentation, and I'd like you all to look at the slide before you and possibly scan that QR code. That will direct you to our public comment portal where you can share your position on the proposal that'll be going before the commission. We've also got several public hearings scheduled the week of January 9th through the 11th. On January 9th, that's Tuesday, we'll have public hearings in Corpus Christi, in Harlingen, in Port Lavaca, and in Rockport. On Wednesday, January 10th, we'll have a public hearing in Port Arthur, and in January 11th, Thursday, January 11th, we'll have a public hearing there in Texas City. You're also welcome to come and speak before the commission on Thursday, January 25th, where we'll be presenting this proposal before the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission, and the public's allowed to give their position in the form of a 2 to 3 minute comment and consideration of the proposal. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and taking part in the regulatory process and in staying engaged with your trout fishery along the coast. If you've got any other questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us at CFish. That's C as in car, fish at tpwd.texas.gov. Thank you.